Good morning, YouTube fam. What's going on? I am on my way to Copart again to pick up a Waverunner this time. Just a little side project that I'm working on. My buddy's got a couple of them, and we've been talking about getting a few to run up the rivers because I do have a boat, but I can't get up some of the rivers here in Georgia. They're just too shallow in some parts, anyways. And there's just a lot of cool stuff you can do on Waverunners that you cannot do on a boat. So anyhow, that's what I'm doing right now. I am driving to Savannah. It is, where is the time? 7:14 a.m. Eastern time. And I got up at 3 a.m. this morning so I could get there pretty early, right when they open. Traffic is awful around here, so I figure I'd get up early, head down there, and pick this thing up. See what kind of condition it's in. If you've purchased from Copart before, you watch other YouTubers that purchase, rebuild projects. You really never know what condition they're gonna be in. I'm not saying that the auction house is shady, but the way they do take pictures, they do try to camouflage some of the probably additional damage that you may have, or they try to make it look as nice as possible. Just like that WRX that I picked up. I knew it'd be a gamble, but it was a little worse shape than the pictures let on. But it wasn't too bad. The biggest thing with that is that we are moving. They didn't move as quickly as we wanted to when we listed our house for sale earlier this summer. And so I needed to get rid of that thing. I just didn't want to deal with moving another project car and on top of everything else with the house. So anyways, the reason for this video, I'll probably post some stuff about the Waverunner later on. Maybe I'll put some footage on this video, but I wanted to do an update with the e-brake on the Viper itself. So, and you'll see in the video, maybe I'll repeat this twice. I don't remember what I said earlier. I recorded myself fixing the e-brake. So there's an issue. The Viper, like many sports cars, have a separate parking brake caliper, right? So you've got your rear brake, which is twin piston in the Viper. I think they're Brembos. And then you've got a separate one, which is just like a single parking brake, I think. And so as I was saying, the e-brake caliper is separate. I think it's a single piston. So anyhow, what happens with these, and it's pretty common with a lot of the Vipers, is that it's self-adjusting, and some of the mechanism in there just wasn't well lubed, and apparently it's pretty tight out of the factory, and with the self-adjusting, it stays really tight. So what happens, and it may not happen to all of them, but it happens to a lot. If you look on the forums, you'll see that a lot of people, there's several threads, and they're multi-page threads. And what happens is it just keeps getting stuck and stuck and stuck. And a little while ago, I started hearing a grinding. And at first, I'm like, oh man, my rear end's gone. But it wasn't. It's the caliper. Once I started doing some research, and sure enough, you'll see in this video when I take it apart, the inside pad is completely worn out. And it's because of that self-adjusting. And so what you have to do is, at least from what many users have recommended, is lube everything up really well. There's a couple of guides and spacers that you take out, and just make sure that all the mechanism is lubed. There's another option by IPSC. I forget the name of the company. I'll link it in the description below, but they offer just a complete mechanical parking brake replacement, and that you'll never have that self-adjusting issue. It just, that one, you pull the e-brake and it's just on, it's tight. There's no self-adjusting like the OEM factory one, which, as the pad wears down, ideally it made sense to have the e-brake, adjust so you don't have to pull the lever all the way up. But the problem is they get stuck and they wear unevenly. Then if you don't pay attention to it, it'll wear down the rotor. And then you have a really expensive repair. You've got the rear rotor, the parking brake pads, and it can get really expensive. So anyhow, I'm doing all the brakes, and I'll do a couple of posts on this, couple of videos to show, but hopefully it helps you guys avoid the same problem that I had. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Here's the video. What is going on, guys? This is another quick video on another very common fix for a very common issue, which is the e-brake getting stuck. By the way, I've got brand new brakes and pads that's going to be going in. I'll probably do a video on that, but I did want to address this. What happens is with the emergency caliper, emergency parking brake caliper, as you can see, this is your rear brake, this is your e-brake or emergency brake. It's a completely separate system. And what happens is from the factory, they're not lubed very well, and it's a self-adjusting. So every time you use the e-brake, it keeps putting tension and more tension and more tension, and it doesn't release. And what happens is you'll hear a noise which sounds like really bad grinding. It sounds like your rear end or something may be going bad, but it's actually the e-brakes. They get stuck, they wear down, they can damage your rotors and just cause a lot of issues. And so the fix here is pretty simple. What you have to do is just take these out. It's going to be Allen key. As you can see, I've removed some of it already. And just remove your rear tire, of course. Go through that, make sure you jack it up, everything is safe, put some jack stands, all that good stuff. But once you remove these, and I'll do more video here as I go along, there's just a couple of bolts here in the front and some around the back. See if we can see them back here. It's like down here somewhere. So there's a couple. You remove that, this is going to pop out, and then I'll show you the parts that you need to lube, and of course inspect your brake pads. These are still decent. They're old. These are original. The car's only got 22,000 miles on it, but eventually these will wear down. As you can see, it's already wearing unevenly. That's why I've got brand new rotors and pads coming in. But you need to do this, otherwise you're going to keep going through pads, rotors about every 6,000 miles, which can be very expensive. So let me remove this and I'll show you where you need to lube and grease them up, and that'll usually fix it. There are other more extreme alternatives from IPSCO, IPSCO, one of the companies that makes a lot of Viper parts, as you guys know, and I'll link it in the description. But essentially they just replaced this whole piece with non-self-adjusting caliper. So it's up to you. It's a $600 fix. That, to me, that's very expensive. So I'll do the lubrication and that'll save me some money. So, and hopefully save you guys some. Anyways, let me take this off and I'll show you what I'm talking about. The caliper out. As you can see, there's 2 bolts in the back, 2 bolts in the front. So you've got some Allen key here, Allen key here. There's another Allen key. As you can see, my key going right here into this little bolt right down there. And then there's this big one over here, which I already took out. So you can see it right there. Kind of hard to get under here. Anyways, take those out. Caliper should fall right out. So make sure this one's done. Oops, almost dropped the phone here. Make sure this one is done. And it is. So that one can slide out. These gloves are too small. This is all original stuff. So now this should pop out carefully. I don't want that spring to hit me in the face. And there you go. So it's out. I'll put the phone down so I can support this thing. But you can see the rear pad completely worn out. And look at the outer pad. And that's the problem that this causes. So you'll reverse the pin. I've got the pads on order already. I'm just not going to use the e-brake, but that's what's happening. And you can see it's starting to wear on the inside of the rotor. So don't let that happen to you. Grease it up, get ahead of it. Let me see if I can get a better shot under here. There you go. So this is grinding pretty bad and you can hear the noise. Now mine is only stuck on this side, but I'm going to take both of them out and do both. But once again, take a look at the pad, guys. You can see this one completely brand new on the outside. Inside one completely gone. So what you have to do is grease this up, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's the slides that's in here. It just gets stuck and it never retracts. So if you just clean that up, do some maintenance, it should work. So let me put the phone down. I'll pull those parts out and show you what I'm talking about. All right, it's a little hard to do this with one hand. But you can see this is got some grease, so it moves back and forth no problem. The problem is this bottom one right here. As you can see, it's completely dry. So that just pulls out, literally. Let me see if I can slide it out. Yep, there we go. So you can see it pulls out. This is completely dry, no grease on there. And what this does, it's self-adjusting. It starts to push on that pad, never retracts, and essentially you get what you see over here, which is that inner pad being completely worn out. And you start hearing that grinding noise. Eventually this wears into your rotor, as I mentioned earlier, and your rotor's bad, and now you've got $500-600 brake job. Again, these pads are like 60 bucks for the rear, and typically, like I said, just grease that up. As you can see, it's completely dry in there, no lubrication whatsoever, and that'll usually fix it. You know, one of the other things is just avoid using the e-brake unless you live in San Francisco or one of those really hilly places. Again, that's at your own warning. And always make sure the car is parked in gear, or even use some wheel chucks. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's just a problem with a flawed design like this. Or again, you can upgrade to the, you know, the non-adjusting calipers, and I think there's some cross-reference parts you can use too to get rid of this thing. So I'm gonna flip the pads. Actually, you can rotate the pads because the inside is typically the one that's doing most of the braking. So that's where the tension is, the piston's pushing in there. So I'm gonna switch to this one, so at least I've got a better, you know, better pad until my new ones come in, and then push the piston back and just try not to use the e-brake. I'll still lubricate the pin, the slider. As I mentioned, this is completely dry, as you can see. So I will lube this up in hopes that, you know, it saves me at least on the other side. Anyways, hope you find this video helpful. Take care of this as soon as you can, because even with low mileage, like I said, this one's only got 23,000 miles, which is not much for a 13-year-old car. Clean it up thoroughly if you can. I got some brake cleaner and stuff. I'll go ahead and take care of that now, and then we'll put it back together, hope that it works. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you on the next one.